is Rachel, and today I'm bringing you my fall reading wrap-up. So overall, my goal was to read 30 books, and I read 16. Normally I'd be disappointed in myself, but not this year. Reading has been awful for me this year. I feel stuck often. I'm not reading as much as I normally do. Just as I got to about 50% of my goal over this season, I'm only at about 50% of my goal overall this year, so it's very typical for how my year has gone, but I'm still really excited about some of the books I read. I think I read a lot of really good books, which definitely helped. But again, 16 books overall. I'm pretty pumped with that. 4,128 pages-ish to the book. So we're going to do something a little bit new. What you really need to know is that I'm kind of not going to be rating books anymore. I'll explain more in a video all about my new rating system. But essentially what I'm going to try to do in my wrap-ups is present them in ascending order. So the very last book that I talk about is going to be my favorite book that I read for this season. So all the books just keep getting better and better and better. So without further ado, let's jump in. The first book is Seance Tea Party. This is by Fryman, and I have to say the artwork in this was fantastic. This is a middle grade graphic novel, and it really centers around ideas of like friendship and loneliness and kind of like witchy vibes a little bit. So it was a perfect read for the fall. I will say I don't quite feel like it was for me. I think that some of my middle school students would really like this, so if it sounds interesting to you, I would definitely still read it, but it didn't quite hit the mark for me. Next up, we have Kobe Bryant, Basketball Superstar. This is by Tammy Gagne. This is a middle school YA biography about Kobe Bryant. It's in a series about like celebrities or well-known figures that have passed away too soon. So this is a relatively newer book. I read this for a nonfiction project that I'm working on right now, and I mean, biographies, especially like sports biographies, just are not for me. This was interesting though. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. Just not personally for me. I definitely think that middle grade and YA age people who are interested in basketball, specifically Kobe Bryant, would love this and really enjoy this book. So while personally not my favorite, definitely a must read for anybody interested in a basketball biography. Next up, I read The Collector. This is by K.R. Alexander. This actually won the Buckeye Book Award for the 3 through 5 grade band last year, and that's mostly why I read it. I wanted to see how spooky it was for like a 3 to 5 grade band, and I will say it was pretty spooky. Like, I think some 3rd graders would have a hard time with this, but they love the scary stuff, so this is right up their alley. Essentially, this was about like a creepy woman in the woods, very Hansel and Gretel, and if she like caught you, she would turn you into a doll and keep you forever. So it was like a spooky story, some adventure. I kind of predicted what was coming, but again, this is a middle grade book, so I'm not sure all the kids would necessarily. I think they would all love this. I think this is perfect for the middle grade audience looking for a spooky book. For me, it was alright. It was alright. I did listen to this one on audio, which I think is a fantastic way to enjoy this book. Next up, I read I Survived the California Wildfires 2018 by Lauren Tarshis. I'm currently reading this with some of my kiddos at school, and while I would say I don't think this is my favorite I Survived that I've read, it is very interesting, and it's really relevant because it just happened a couple years ago. But with this one, it was interesting because we did get to talk about wildfires and, you know, really without going into like too much like scientific detail, kind of talk about specifics of like animals in California and climate change in California and some details about how firefighters are able to deal with wildfires, etc. So I think this was a good one. Again, probably not my favorite I Survived, but definitely a fun one, and if you know anybody that likes the I Survived books, they're going to enjoy this one. Next, I read The Silver Eyes graphic novel by Scott Cawthon. I did not write down who was the illustrator, so I apologize for that. but essentially this is a graphic novel adaptation of his novel. And these are all out from Scholastic. I had never heard of Five Nights from Freddy's. I guess I'm just getting old and out of touch, but apparently it's a video game that the kids really like. And these came out from Scholastic a few years ago. Again, it sounded super scary. I was hesitant to get it because I just had no point of reference. But being from Scholastic, I decided to go for it. So when the graphic novel came out, I thought this will be my entry point. And I was honestly surprised by how much I enjoyed like the storyline. Essentially, it's kind of like a creepy Chuck E. Cheese where the figurines were robotic and they begin killing people, I guess. I feel like the graphic novel probably left out a little bit, so I feel like that just motivated me to read the novels now because I want more details. I want to know what happened because I kind of don't understand, but very much intriguing. I feel like just I didn't know enough about the story to enjoy the graphic novel by itself. I think it's not the best graphic novel in the world, but I think it's going to be a really great entry point for the kids who are wanting something to read, but maybe don't want to commit to a full-length novel like some of the Five Nights at Freddy's books. Next up is The Bad Guys in The One by Aaron Blavey. I feel like I don't need to talk about this series anymore on my channel. You know I love it. I'm gonna buy them and I'm gonna read every single one. I am really excited that this is going to be a major motion picture soon. I do think they're getting maybe a tad bit like repetitive, but I still think it's so fun. I just really like the characters. I like just the characterizations. Like you kind of can anticipate people's reactions, and it's just really funny when they do come through with that reaction that you're expecting. So I'm still interested. I'm still going to continue on. Probably not my favorite in the series, but I absolutely love the series. Fantastic, and this is a middle grade graphic novel series. Next up, I read the Lizzie Borden Axe Murders by Carla Mooney. This is again for the nonfiction project I'm working on, and I will say that this is I didn't enjoy it as much as I think other people might because I've read several books about Lizzie Borden because I'm kind of weird. I like all the true crime stuff. So I already knew, I feel like, most of the information presented, but if I look at it from the perspective of maybe like a teenager, because this is a YA nonfiction, I think it would be interesting if you didn't know anything about Lizzie Borden. It gives you a lot of the details, a lot of the timeline. It lays out kind of like the case against her, and then also the reasons why maybe she wasn't prosecuted. So I think it gives you a lot of really good information in this book, and I thought it was presented really well, so I like this one. Next up is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I will say I have read, this is my third Ruth Ware book now, and this has probably been my least favorite. I felt like it was like predictable and like unreasonable at the same time. I don't know. But essentially we're following this woman who believes she has kind of, I don't want to say witnessed because she didn't really see it, but essentially like experienced somebody killing somebody. She's on a cruise ship and she hears somebody being like thrown over in the cabin next to her, and she knows there was a person there, but when she tells the like emergency crew, they're like, nope, nobody's in there. So basically nobody believes her. Everybody thinks she's crazy. She's totally being gaslit, and that's kind of the mystery of like who was thrown over. Was there somebody thrown over? Is she crazy? Like I said, I think this is my least favorite, but I don't know. I read it. I don't think, like, she's my favorite writer, but I just like to read her. So I will still read all of her books, but I don't know. This one was kind of just okay for me, but, you know, good enough to make me keep wanting to read the book, see what happened to them, and definitely to keep reading other books. Next up is The Night Swim. This is by Megan Golden. This was for our book club. I thought this was pretty good. I honestly kind of expected a little bit more, maybe. I think it just felt a little bit dry for me. This is very much a murder mystery. We kind of have a little bit of a podcast action going on, as well as the courtroom drama of a rape case. And it all ties together pretty well, but I think a little bit predictably. Like I said, I think I just wanted a little bit more from this book, but overall I thought it was really good. I think if you like true crime podcasts and whatnot mixed in with your thrillery fiction. I think you'll like this one. I will say though, I think part of the problem was that I actually had read Sadie earlier, and I liked Sadie better than this one, and I felt like I kept comparing the two. But overall, pretty good. I think most of our book club enjoyed this one. It was an interesting read. I enjoyed reading this one. Next up is Don't Turn Out the Lights. This is edited by Jonathan Mayberry, and essentially this is all kind of in honor of Alan Schwartz's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So they've collected a lot of modern middle grade YA authors, and they've all written a spooky short story. Kind of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark-esque, and I will say they have like the creepy pictures in here, and they've got a lot of fun short stories. I would argue that the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, like the words in those books aren't that scary or that fun to read. It's the pictures that are scary. And in this one, I think it's a better mix of both. Like, some of these stories were totally creepy. Some of them were goofy. Some of them I just flat out didn't like. But overall, this was a lot of fun. I cannot wait to get this in the hands of my students. I think they're going to love it. Next up is a classic, and that's And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I've heard so many books compared to this and reference this book that I just felt like I finally had to buckle down and read it, and I read it in like 24 hours. I really enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't expecting to. I read an Agatha Christie a couple years ago, and I just really did not mix well with it. So I just didn't have good feelings for this, but I really enjoyed it. I feel like it was hard to see what was coming because of the way it was written, but I still think it was a lot of fun. It was a good classic. I was surprised, again, how much I did enjoy this one. Next up, I read In the Study with the Wrench by Diana Peter-Freund. This is the second book in the Clue murder mystery series. This is a YA murder mystery, and I raved about the first one. Bought this one like the day it came out, was super excited to read it. I will say that I don't think I like this one as much as the first one, but I still really enjoyed it. I will be reading the third one. I can only hope that they change their minds and make more books, because right now I think it's only slated to be a trilogy, and I will be so sad. But I really enjoyed these. I don't really want to tell you any of the plot because it might give it away, but essentially it's kind of like a locked room murder mystery, just like Clue. In the first book, there is a big storm. They're set in Maine. There's a big storm that sequesters them all into one house because it's cold outside, it's icy outside, you can't get anywhere. So they're all in this one house that is very much like the Clue house. And immediately, Professor Body, the dean of the school, is murdered. And all of the characters have basically color names, but it's all very like loosely based. The only one that's like more direct is Mrs. White, who is kind of like the house lady. I don't know. She watches over the house and like all the kids that live there, and everybody else has like vague names, like the green guy. It's a teenager whose last name is Green. But anyway, we have all these characters that are locked in. Everybody's a suspect. Who done it? Typical Clue. It's fantastic. Love, love, love. This one I felt like had a lot less allusions to the game that were surprising, like the first one. That's really, I think, what I enjoyed the most. So if you didn't like the characters from the first one, you might not like this one, because I feel like it was a lot more about the characters. But I really enjoyed it still. Like I said, hope they decide to do more than just 3 books. I would be happy with that. Next is One by One by Ruth Ware. Again, this is the second book, I think, by Ruth Ware that I read, and I actually really enjoyed this one. I know a lot of people did not. I thought it was super predictable. Like, I think I guessed, like, within, like, the first, I don't know, 50 pages who was the murderer, but it was just so much fun to read. I literally was having fun reading it. So I think that's what's the most important. I know that it was like predictable. I know that it was kind of cliche, but I don't care. I really liked this one. So far, this has been my favorite Ruth Ware book. I know for a lot of people that's exact opposite, but that's okay. I really enjoyed this one. And if you don't know, again, essentially like a closed murder mystery. They're all cooped up in this chalet. There's like a tech company that's there for like a meeting, and there's 2 people who are like running the chalet that are also there, and then kind of one by one, as the title implies, they start showing up dead and or missing, and you have to figure out who is the person who is doing this. And like I said, I feel like it was really predictable, but it was still a lot of fun, so I like this one. Next up, I finally read Pumpkinheads by Faith Erin Hicks and Rainbow Rowell. Love this. I am so sad that I didn't get it read last fall when I originally wanted to, but I'm also so glad that I saved it for the fall season. Like, this is such a fall read. It could not get any more fall if you tried, and I just love it. I think this is one that I might read every fall because it's just perfect. We have our two characters here that have worked at this pumpkin patch for years, and this is their last year working together before they go off to college, and our two main characters are on the hunt for one of them to finally engage their crush before they leave. And it's so sweet and cute and lovely and fall-y, and yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Next up is All 13, The Incredible Cave Rescue of the Thai Boys Soccer Team. This is by Christina Suntornavat, and I loved this book. This is another one for my nonfiction project, and I was really surprised that I liked this one as much as I did, just because this isn't necessarily a book I would have picked up outside of this project. So I was just surprised because I know it's not typically something I would have liked, but I really liked it, and it's exactly what it sounds like. We're following the real life events of the rescue of the Thai boy soccer team that got stuck in a cave, and essentially they went into the cave, just, you know, not cave, I don't know what you call that, just cave venturing, and then they got stuck and they had to send all these people in to try to get them out. Oh my gosh, I have to say, the book is called All 13, implying that all 13 make it. And I was nervous the whole time I was reading this book. Knowing the outcome, I was so nervous, but it was really interesting. I felt like I learned a lot. The only qualm I had is that I read it as an ebook, and I think it would have been much better as a paper format because I always wanted to go back and like reference things, and it was much harder in the ebook format. So if you're going to read this book, I would highly, highly suggest that you get a physical copy because I think you'll want to reference things. But that was literally the only complaint, and that was my own fault. I really, really enjoyed this one. And then last but not least was my only reread of the season, and that was In the Hall with the Knife by Diana Peterfreund. This is the first book in the Clue murder mystery series, which I kind of already told you about. But I reread it, so I definitely wanted to count it on this. It was my favorite book that I read this fall. I just think it's so much fun. You've got this closed room murder mystery, which is already something that I love, and it's just full of teen angst. Then they just drop all these little allusions to the Clue game on you. I mean, I think it's just so much fun. Again, like, is it like the best book you're ever gonna read? Like, no. It's not gonna win any huge literary awards, but it is literally the most fun book that I read this fall. I really enjoyed it, and I can't say enough good things about it. I really, really enjoyed it. So there you go. You have my 16 books that I read this fall. So let me know down below, what is your favorite book that you read in the fall season? I'd love to hear. Let's talk some books down in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in another video soon. Bye for now.